the defense to file a motion to dismiss. It's standard in these types of cases. They'll probably get denied. It'd be odd if they didn't do it, but they have to be confident that the state did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Expect a motion to dismiss.
We, I believe, have a motion by the defense that was made before the testimony started for the defense. So you can make your motion, Ms. Krause.
Judge, at the,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Perry.
it's fine. She's the one who said there's a motion.
I swear to God, she said the motions. So,
You're right.
all right. Are you going to make the motion
I
now?
am, yeah.
All right.
This is at the conclusion of the state's case. The defense moves to dismiss insufficient evidence, insufficient credible evidence pointing towards establishing that Mark Jensen committed first-degree intentional homicide.
All right. I am going to quote
Told ya.
as to what the motion is. It's a motion to dismiss at close of the state's case. It says, motion must be denied if, considering the state's evidence in the most favorable light, the evidence adduced, believed, or rationally considered is sufficient to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So I have to give the state the most favorable light here. And I do have, for the record, 3 notepads already full. We had 38 witnesses for the state. And we will start out with the first witness in this case was Ruth Vorvald, V-O-R-V-A-L-D.
Vorwald, Your Honor, Vorwald.
Thank you. She knew Julie Jensen. She indicated on December 3rd, 1998, she was driving north. She saw Mark Jensen on that day on Lakeshore Drive. Mark waved. It was in the middle of the morning, and she thought it was kind of unusual because Mark worked in Racine. We had Sharon Krause. She testified. She saw Mark on December 3rd, 1998. Indicated that Mark said to her that Julie was gone, showed no emotions. We then had Teresa DeFazio, who testified under oath. She indicated, Julie said, I cannot use the computer. She would show up every Wednesday to help at the school. There was a statement that Julie made that my husband is going to kill me. She also indicated she told Ms. DeFazio she found a list of drugs, issues of overdose. She also indicated that her husband, Mark, was on the computer off and on, looking up areas. She also indicated, she said that Mark would make it look like a suicide. Carrie Ashley indicated she called Julie December 2nd, 1998. Mark Jensen answered. Mark said Julie was sick in bed. She also indicated she saw Julie's items in the garbage. She also indicated she saw Kelly Labonte in the house within a month. Eric Shore, the young man, testified in December of 1998. He heard David Jensen, the older boy, indicate information about his mother's health, indicated he was very concerned, said his mother was sick. She had heavy breathing. For the record, we talked about the actual breathing that was being mentioned under oath, in that his dad would not take her to the hospital. He also indicated he observed Kelly Labonte in the residence within a very short period of time. Laura Shore, that is the mother of Eric, indicated that she had information that Julie was sick. Angelina Martinelli indicated Julie was an excellent mother. She had the younger Jensen boy in preschool. Joseph Mangi, who at that time was principal of Bradford High School. Julie applied for a job there, sent the resume. They were going to hire her, and sometime December 1st or 2nd, he called Mr. Julie to tell her that she was going to be accepted for the job, and a male answered, and he said that that was Mark Jensen, and the statement by Mark Jensen was, "Julie's asleep. She'll be asleep for a long time," and there was a laugh. Kimberly Noble, she indicated that Julie was a happy person. She was a good mother. We had Exhibit 9. It was a tape of Thaddeus Wojcik, W-O-J-T. He talked about conversations that he had with Julie. She was very upset over things regarding the children. And one of the highlighted items I have as to his testimony, he said Mark, meaning Mr. Jensen, was chasing Julie around with a glass of wine, and there was a syringe on the nightstand. She also indicated that this is Julie, that Mark was looking at porn sites when the door was halfway open or closed. Dr. Chambliss, Michael Chambliss, who was an expert, been in the field for 38 years, forensic pathology, indicated the autopsy that was performed, the exhibit was moved into evidence. He talked about the issue of the head on the pillow. That was an issue for him. He talked about ethanol, glycol poisoning, the suffocation issue, and under oath, Dr. Chambliss said homicide as to Mark Jensen. Poisoning was a contributing factor. Edward Klug worked with Mr. Jensen. He was at this conference in St. Louis at the hotel November 6th, November 7th, 1998. Conversation after a banquet, a night of drinking. They're at the hotel, and Mark Jensen is telling Mr. Klug about poisoning his wife, going to websites, and trying to make it that it was not detectable in a normal autopsy. He would put it in her drinks, and that conversation Mr. Klug talked about. We also had records of phone bills of Mr. Klug calling his wife at that time, right after that. Mr. Klug also told, under testimony, he told Ron Reck, W-C-R-U-K, I believe. We had David Naring talk, a broker who had worked with Mr. Jensen, talked about the conversation again with Ed Klug. Mr. Naring also talked about the alcohol drinking that Friday at St. Louis that he saw. We had notes from Ed Klug. We had the tape of Ron Kosman, who was the original police officer in the case, as to the harassments. He talked about 20 photos that he was given by Julie. He talked about the porno photos. He talked about this extensive calendar that Julie had, all her activities that she had marked. Notes from Julie as to what she was doing. Had some information about purchasing property in November of 1998. There was something also when Officer Kosman testified, and the note that I have is that Mark Jensen said, Klug is stupid. Also, there's a note that Mark Jensen said that Julie was crying about a miscarriage. She locks herself in a bedroom. Mr. Kosman also continued to talk about the suspicious activity that was being reported at the Jensen home in 1992 through 1996, the phone calls, the harassment. Talked about the pictures of the porno pictures of the sexual information. David Naring testified, and Mr. Naring said that he's known Mr. Jensen since 1991. He indicated that Mark Jensen had a personal relationship, a romantic interest with Kelly Labonte. He also indicated divorce had come up and Julie was having some issues. He indicated Mark Jensen was looking for drug interactions on the computer at work. There was a conversation between Mr. Jensen and Mr. Naring whether Kelly should be at the wake, when she should move in, that is Kelly Labonte. Rosemary McNinnis, she worked in the office in Racine at work in summer of 1998. Mark Jensen was the branch manager. She said there were no harassing phone calls that were coming in. The brokers did not open up their own mail. Kelly Labonte Brooks, she married Mr. Jensen in February of 19. She married Mr. Jensen, but the relationship, she said, started prior to that. She met Mr. Jensen April 1998. The summer, Miss Brooks, also known as Kelly Labonte, was engaged to her boyfriend. She developed a romantic relationship with Mr. Jensen September of 1998. We had numerous email messages between Mark Jensen and Kelly Labonte that start in September. And I would indicate a lot of those email messages are flirtation issues as to some sort of romantic relationship. There's no other explanation from all those emails. They used to have letter codes that they used. I want you, I love you, I miss you, on basically every email. And this starts in September 1998, prior to the death of Julie Jensen. David Wilkinson, he's the one that was called to the scene. He indicated he came about 4:32 p.m. to the Jensen residence. Julie was already dead on arrival. EKG was performed, nothing. The phone was off the hook. He looked at the photos of the deceased. He said he was dispatched 4:32 p.m. He arrived 4:35 p.m. at the house. Paul Rasberg, who was, before he retired, was a lieutenant, but he was sergeant of the detectives of Pleasant Prairie at the time in December of 1998. He responded to the Jensen home at 4:30 on December 3rd. He had the video that we saw of the house. He showed that. He had the consent of Mr. Jensen to search. He took the home computer into custody. He recovered the computer and a hard drive. He indicated he gave that to the crime lab December 13th, 1998. He also indicated that he recovered some sort of cigar box from the Jensen home also that items were in. He found the daily planner of Julie. It was received into evidence. The last entry of the daily planner is August 19th, 1998. He had photos of the crime scene. And he did the interview of Mr. Jensen that was recorded, that we watched. There's also a transcript of it. And what's interesting about that interview, he's asking Mr. Jensen about his relationship to Kelly Labonte. And the exact answer that Mr. Jensen said, Kelly is just a friend. That's it. He doesn't say, I've been having sex with her. She's my lover. We've been having a relationship. He also tells Detective Rasberg, Julie did not get out of bed December 3rd, 1998. He also said Julie was in a serious condition. He also indicated, I did not call a doctor. They seized the computer. They went. Lieutenant Rasberg also indicated they drove to St. Louis and they got the work computer. They dropped it off at the Department of Justice. So they got the personal computer. They go work computer from Racine. They also got the computer from regarding Kelly Labonte. They also have information, and this is Lieutenant Rasberg indicated that they have evidence of Julie's voice, and it sounded drunk. We had also information as to the searches on the computer, and that is the home computer. That is Jason Ruff, R-U-F-F. Division of Criminal Investigation for the state of Wisconsin. He was qualified as an expert digital evidence. Indicated the search at that time was on Yahoo. And they have searches that were done on this home computer from the Jensen residence as to, in October 12th, 1998, O'Hare Marriott website, somebody searching Morton's Steakhouse, downtown Chicago. And Kelly Labonte testified, that's where we were going to go in Chicago, Morton's Steakhouse, downtown Chicago. Searches for cruises. We got telephone records of Kelly Labonte and Mr. Jensen talking about, hey, maybe we're going to go somewhere else. Maybe we should take a cruise. There's searches of botulism, food poisoning, and they're all at very strange times. They're not during the day. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. or whatever. They're all searches during the early mornings of the hour. They're searches for nicotine, searches for toxic alcohol, medicine, ethanol, glycol, poisoning, medication, overdoses, poison websites, antifreeze. Even on December 2nd, the day before the death of Julie Jensen, 9:30 p.m., there's a search for antifreeze. There's a search for, on December 2nd, alcohol consumption, rapid breathing, blood pressure issues. There's searches December 3rd, 1998, antifreeze poisoning, information as to shock, cardiac shock. 9:40 a.m., December 3rd, 1998, searches for poisoning. Videos were watched. It's the home computer found in the Jensen residence. Meredith Perez, she worked at the office in Racine. She said there's no harassing phone calls, there's nobody hanging up, there's no swearing, there's no porno pictures coming in. Stacy Bauer talked about conference in St. Louis, talked about the information that Ed Klug talked about, and she's the one that said, oh my God, he killed her. Joseph Crivasi, Crifasi, took the lab samples, blood tests. The antifreeze or the ethanol glycol is in Julie's blood. Perry Tarika, he's the individual that had the affair with Julie Jensen. He denied sending harassing pictures, making the phone calls. He also indicated that Julie is one of the nicest people he ever met. We call back Jason Ruff again, the computer expert. Talked about the searches again. We had a video of Joan Scully. She worked with Mark Jensen. Again, she indicated, I didn't find any porno photos, nothing received at work. Marion Passetti, she was part of the book club. She saw Mark the day that Julie Jensen died. Mark Jensen told her he could not get his wife to the hospital. Said she had a bad reaction to medication. Never said anything about depression to her. Aaron Dillard. Obviously, there's a dispute as to his credibility, but he's testified as to what Mr. Jensen told him while they were in custody. talked about Ed Klug testimony. Ann Lynch, a teacher, she knew Julie Jensen. She worried about Douglas having to go full-time in the fall. This is late 1998. She indicated the marriage was in trouble. Paul Griffin, Julie's brother. Talked about the family, the relationship he had with Julie. But we also have a recorded statement from Paul Griffin to Mark Jensen. And Mr. Jensen, in that recorded statement, he didn't know he was being recorded, gives some different explanations as to what happened to Julie the last days. Said Julie was sick. She was taking medications. Mr. Griffin also indicated that he went to, which would be his nephew's birthday party, David, who was a young boy in 1999, January 21st. Kelly Labonte was there. This is, 3 weeks after the death of Julie Jensen? And Mark introduced her as a friend from work. And what did Mr. Griffin say? Kelly Labonte looked like she knew where everything was in the house. Very familiar with the house. David Thompson, interesting character. He's the one that agreed to kidnap Mr. Klug. And then when I was listening to him, I'm thinking, well, he's got prior convictions. We're not going to dispute that. But after his credibility was attacked, I was surprised to see what he does today. Pretty successful individual. Turned his life around. There's no dispute as to that. And we got these phone records where we got Mr. Jensen and Mr. Thompson and Mr. Thompson's ex-wife or his mother or his child talking about money being transferred, 500, 575, another 500. We also have Mr. Jensen on some of the phone calls to his mother talking about people sitting on other people. He was talking about his kids doing it, and that's kind of where he was going in those conversations. And he was dancing all the way around, but he was talking about somebody being sat on and something being taken care of, and that's why he needs the money. And then we also go back to the telephone conversation that he had with Kelly Labonte, where he's asking, hey, I need some money. And unbelievable, it's $500. And I need to get it to my parents. And I can't tell you what it's for, but I'll tell you later. So Mr. Jensen's talking about Ed Klug and the sitting and this kidnapping with Mr. Thompson, his wife, and his mother. And they're all recorded. David Ellis, obviously very limited information. He was the investigator that the Jensens had hired, but they canceled it. Gretchen Rosecki, the attorney for Mr. Dillard, talked about the letter that she sent regarding her client. Dr. Mary Mainland, the medical examiner for Kenosha County. She retired November 2020. Pretty impressive resume. She was a medical examiner in February 2005, left in 2008, went to Tampa, Florida. She's done 4,000 autopsies. She didn't perform this autopsy, but she reviewed numerous records, and both sides grilled her of what she reviewed, whether it was a medical record, a police report, photos, autopsy, transcripts. She talked about what her opinion is, and she was pretty clear, even after the cross that Mr. Perry did. She was pretty solid in her opinion. She talked about the phases of poisoning and how they would start, whether it's December 1st, 2nd of 1998, continuing, and what she saw in all the information that she had. She indicated Julie Jensen had 2 doses of this poisoning. It caused her death, and the manner of death is homicide. She talked to bruising on the body. So she was pretty adamant. So I got 2 experts say homicide. I got lots of witnesses that put Mr. Jensen in not a good position. So I think the evidence considered most likely in the state's light, there's sufficient evidence here to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt at this point. So the motion is denied.